I left my boyfriend for fear of marriage. Now he's moved on with his life and I regret everything. My name is Camila, and I'm 30 years old. Every day I wake up with a weight in my heart, a constant feeling of regret that doesn't go away. Sometimes I try to convince myself that time heals all, but there are mistakes that simply leave permanent scars. This is the story of the biggest mistake of my life, one that continues to haunt me, and that I will probably never be able to fix. A few years ago, I had everything anyone could want: love, stability, and a life partner who loved me with all his heart. But my own fear, my inability to face commitment, led me to lose him. This is my confession, my way of releasing what I carry inside. Andres was my boyfriend for 5 years. I met him when I was 22 years old and in my first semester of graphic design at the University of Texas at Austin. Andres was studying civil engineering and was in his last year when we first crossed paths. From that moment, I knew he was someone special. He was charismatic, kind, and had that mix of intelligence and humility that is hard to find. Every time he spoke, he did so with a passion that could inspire anyone. But what really made me fall in love was the way he treated me. He always listened to me, supported me, and made me feel important. Our relationship began in the most natural way. First, we were friends. We would see each other in the campus cafeteria to study, talk about our classes, and share dreams. He dreamed of designing skyscrapers that would change the way people saw modern architecture. I, on the other hand, dreamed of opening my own design studio and working with major international brands. After 6 months of friendship, Andres confessed that he felt something more for me. I will never forget how he told me. We were sitting in a park near the university, enjoying a coffee and watching the sunset. "Camila, I know this could change everything, but I can't keep pretending. I really like you." I felt my heart stop. It was the first time someone looked at me with such sincerity and vulnerability. I responded with a kiss, and from that moment on we became a couple. The first years with Andres were magical. It was as if the whole world disappeared when we were together. We spent weekends exploring the city, trying new restaurants, and watching movies. We supported each other in everything. He helped me with my design projects, and I kept him company during his long nights working on plans and calculations. When Andres graduated, he got a job at an engineering firm in Austin. Although he had exhausting workdays, he always found time to be with me. He surprised me with small details: a note in my backpack, flowers after a difficult day, or simply endless hugs that made me feel safe. I continued studying and working on freelance projects, and despite the differences in our schedules, we made our relationship work. It wasn't easy, but Andres always said it was worth it. After 4 years together, conversations about the future became more frequent. Andres began to talk seriously about marriage. For him, it was the next logical step. We knew each other well, we loved each other, and we shared a vision of life. But for me, the idea of getting married was terrifying. My parents had divorced when I was 10 years old, and that event marked my perspective on marriage. I grew up seeing constant arguments, resentment, and broken promises. Although Andres was the complete opposite of my father, I couldn't help but project those fears onto our relationship. Every time he mentioned the word marriage, my anxiety increased. I told him it wasn't the time, that we were still young, and that there were many things we wanted to achieve before taking that step. Andres always listened to me patiently, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. One day, after a romantic dinner, he took my hand and looked at me seriously. "Camila, I don't want to pressure you, but I need to know if you see a future with me." My mind was filled with doubts. I loved him, but the idea of committing forever terrified me. I told him I needed time to think. Andres accepted, but from that moment on, something changed between us. The following weeks were tense. Although Andres tried to act as if everything was fine, I could feel his worry. My friends and family began to make comments too, asking me why I didn't want to marry him. "He's the perfect guy, Camila. What are you waiting for?" my best friend Natalia would say. But my fear of commitment kept growing. I felt that if I agreed to marry, I would be giving up my freedom and risking repeating my parents' mistakes. Instead of talking to Andres about my insecurities, I withdrew into myself. One night, Andres organized a special dinner at his apartment. He had cooked my favorite dish and had a bottle of red wine waiting for us. While we ate, he began to talk again about the future. This time it wasn't just about marriage. He wanted to know if we shared the same long-term goals. Camila, I want to build a life with you, but I need to know if we're on the same page. My heart sank. I knew Andres was right, but I couldn't give him the answer he wanted. That night, when he took me home, I felt something break between us. After weeks of reflecting and dealing with my anxiety, I made an impulsive decision. I felt that I couldn't give Andres what he needed, and I thought it would be better to end our relationship before hurting him further. One night, I called him and asked him to meet me in the park where we had started our relationship. When he arrived, I saw him smile as if he expected everything to be okay. But when I told him that I couldn't continue with him, his expression changed. Is it because of marriage? He asked, his voice breaking. I explained that I felt I wasn't ready to take that step, that I didn't want to ruin his life by dragging him into my fears. Andres tried to convince me that we could overcome it together, but I was so consumed by my own insecurities that I didn't listen to him. That night, I broke up with the man who had loved me the most, believing it was the best decision for both of us. After that night, I felt free, or at least I thought so. There were no more conversations about marriage, no pressure about future decisions. I had all the time in the world to focus on my career, my friends, and my own interests. But the truth was different. The first few days were confusing. I didn't know what to do with so much free time. Before, my routine revolved around Andres. We had dinner together, planned weekend getaways, and shared the small details of the day. Without him, my life felt empty. I tried to fill that void by going out with friends, accepting additional projects at work, and dedicating myself to my hobbies like painting. But everything seemed to lack meaning. Even things that I had previously been passionate about, like my illustrations or exploring new places, now seemed insignificant. Andres would send me messages from time to time. They were cordial and kind, as if he was trying to maintain a friendship, but I could barely respond without feeling a pang of pain. I had let my fear drive me away from the person who had loved me the most. Months passed, and although I tried to move on, I couldn't help but wonder what Andres was doing. I knew he was working on important new projects at his company, and that he was still the same man passionate about his work. One afternoon, while checking my social media, I saw a photo that left me frozen. It was Andres at a dinner accompanied by a beautiful woman. They seemed very close. My heart sank as I saw her pose next to him with a radiant smile. I had no right to feel jealous. After all, I was the one who left him. However, I couldn't prevent regret from creeping into every thought. What if he had already forgotten me? What if that woman gave him everything I couldn't? On a quiet afternoon, or so it seemed, Natalia and I had met at our favorite cafe to catch up after weeks of busy schedules. While slowly stirring my latte, Natalia, who had always had a peculiar knack for delivering bad news, dropped something that paralyzed me. Camila, I have to tell you something, but I don't know how you're going to take it. I looked up, noticing her worried expression. What's wrong? I asked, my heart beginning to beat faster. It's about Andres. A friend of mine who works with him told me something. She paused, as if searching for the right words. She told me he's dating someone, a girl named Val. I felt as if all the air had escaped the room. My heart skipped a beat, and for a moment, I couldn't process what I had just heard. They're dating? I asked, trying to maintain my composure. Natalia nodded cautiously. Yes. Apparently they've been together for months. My friend says they look very happy. That Valeria's an incredible girl. The words very happy echoed in my mind like an endless loop. It was as if someone was hitting my chest with an invisible hammer. I was sure she was the same girl I had seen in his photos. I tried to maintain a calm facade, but Natalia immediately noticed that something was wrong. Cammy, I'm sorry, I didn't want you to find out like this, but I thought you should know. I smiled weakly, though tears were starting to well up in my eyes. It's okay. You were right to tell me. The rest of the conversation faded into background noise. Natalia kept talking, but her words were a distant murmur while my mind was submerged in a whirlwind of emotions. That night when I got home, everything came crashing down. I closed the door behind me and dropped to the floor, unable to contain the tears. I cried like never before, a deep and heartbreaking cry that seemed to come from the depths of my soul. Everything hurt. The idea that Andres was with someone else, the regret for having left him, and the guilt of knowing that it had been me who ruined what we had. I grabbed my phone and looked at our old photos together. remembering the happy moments we had shared. Each image was like a dagger, reminding me of what I had lost. In one of them, we were at the beach, laughing as the sun set behind us. In another, Andres was holding a bouquet of flowers he had bought me just because. I remembered his smile, his contagious laughter, and the way he always made me feel safe. Now all of that belonged to someone else. I wanted to blame this Valeria, but I knew it wasn't her fault. Andres deserved to be happy, and if she was the one who could give him that, I had no right to interfere. However, the pain was still there, a constant reminder of my mistake. I spent the night awake, reliving every moment of our relationship, every decision I had made, and every opportunity one had wasted. I wondered what would have happened if I had faced my fears, if I had talked to Andres instead of walking away. The following days were a torment. The news that Andres had rebuilt his life consumed me from the inside, but it also forced me to face the harsh reality. I was responsible for my situation. I tried to focus on work, on my friendships, on anything that would help me clear my mind, but everything seemed to revolve around him. One afternoon, after much thought, I decided to write him a message. I didn't expect it to change anything, but I needed to express what I felt, even if it was for the last time. Hi Andres, I hope you're well. I know this may be awkward, but I needed to write to you. I want to apologize. I'm sorry for leaving you, for not having the courage to face my fears, and for hurting you. Not a single day goes by that I don't regret my decisions. I know I can no longer change what happened, and I know you're probably in a much better place now. I just want you to know that I will always wish you the best. You were one of the best things that happened to me in life, and I regret not having known how to appreciate it. Take care, Camila. I reread the message several times before sending it. When I finally did, I felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. I knew there was very little chance he would respond, and perhaps it was better that way. Several days passed without a reply, but I wasn't surprised. Andres had every right to ignore me, to move on without looking back. I was the chapter he had closed while I was still stuck on the same page. A few weeks later, while walking through the park near my house, I saw him. He was sitting on a bench with a peaceful smile on his face. Next to him was a woman, Valeria, I assumed. She was laughing at something he had said and looked happy, fulfilled. For a moment I thought about approaching them, but I decided not to. I had nothing to offer them. I just stood there at a safe distance, watching as the man I had loved and left had found the happiness I couldn't give him. I walked back home with tears in my eyes. But this time they weren't just tears of pain. There was some relief in knowing that Andres was okay, that he had found his way. Today, as I write these words, I continue to deal with the consequences of my decisions. I have learned to live with the weight of regret, but I have also learned to grow from my mistakes and to look for ways to be a better person. Leaving Andres was the biggest mistake of my life, and although I will never be able to undo it, I hope that my story serves as a lesson for someone else. Fear can be a powerful enemy, but it should never be the driving force behind our decisions. If I could go back in time, I would face my insecurities with courage and work alongside Andres to build the life we both dreamed of. But the past cannot be changed, and all that remains is to look forward with an open heart. I hope that wherever Andres is, he knows that I will always remember him with affection and gratitude. His love marked me forever, and although he is no longer part of my life, he will always have a special place in my heart.